speed. Most things around you can crumble to ashes in mere seconds. That's why you have to act as soon as you hear your fire alarm go off. 1. Prepare an escape plan in advance. So as to not lose your bearings, you should always have an escape plan ready. It's even better if you write it down on paper. Try to prepare for different situations and create at least 3 escape routes. Describe in your plan exactly how you'll evacuate your home, who will be the leader during the evacuation process, where you'll meet up after everybody has left the house, and how you'll call for help. 2. Keep rope ladders on top floors. If your house has more than one floor, it's a good idea to acquire fire escape ladders and put them in several strategic locations on top floors. This way, if the downstairs gets blocked off by a fire, you'll have another way to escape the burning house. 3. Exit your house immediately after you hear the fire alarm or notice a fire. People die because instead of running for their life, they try to save all their valuables, documents, gadgets, money, and so on. Forget about all that. Your only concern should be gathering your family members and pets and leaving the house safely. 4. Doors will help you during a fire. Wooden doors can provide good protection from both smoke and heat. On top of that, they can prevent a fire from spreading. An effective strategy can be escaping from one room to another and closing doors behind you. At the same time, be extremely cautious when you open a door. There may be a fire waiting for you on the other side. If you realize that the doorknob or the door itself is too hot to touch, or you see smoke coming through the cracks, do not open the door. Even if everything seems alright, open every door with the utmost care to avoid unnecessary risk. This way you'll be able to shut it right away if you spot a fire raging behind it. If you realize that the only way to leave the house is through a window, make sure the doors are shut. A draft from an open window can aggravate a fire in a matter of seconds. 5. Make an improvised respirator. This may sound unexpected, but during a house fire, the fire itself isn't the main danger. What kills people much faster than flames is smoke. Smoke is a powerful irritant to your nose, throat, and eyes, and its smell is nauseating. If you inhale smoke, it can irreversibly harm your lungs. You should remember that smoke from a house fire is toxic since burning objects release harmful gases. Once you start to inhale smoke, your body stops getting enough oxygen. Depending on the heat and density of the smoke, people usually lose consciousness and die due to brain damage in no more than 5 to 15 minutes. That's why it's of the utmost importance to know how you can protect yourself from smoke inhalation. If the situation allows, you can make a DIY gas mask that will act as a respirator. Grab a plastic bottle or container that's big enough to cover your face and cut off its bottom. After that, cut a U-shaped opening for your head in one of the sides. Don't make it too big. The mask won't fit you tightly enough, and smoke will get into your eyes and nose. Take a kitchen sponge and wet it with water. After that, push the sponge into the neck of the bottle to serve as a filtration device. The final step is to remove the lid of the bottle. The respirator isn't perfect, but it will give you some precious time to exit the house. If you don't have the necessary materials at hand, place a wet cloth or piece of clothing in such a way that it covers both your mouth and nose. Unfortunately, this method leaves much to be desired. It will buy you no more than a couple of additional minutes. But even so, these minutes may turn out to be game-changing. 6. Stay away from fabrics. Clothes, curtains, bed sheets, and tablecloths pose a serious danger during a fire. They are very likely to start burning. If you have time, take off your clothes made from synthetic materials. When affected by fire, they will melt and stick to your skin, causing bad burns. Try to replace such clothing with something made from cotton or wool. If your clothes do catch fire, stop whatever you're doing, fall to the ground, and start rolling around until the fire is put out. Rolling will smother the fire and won't let it spread uncontrollably. Make sure you cover your face with your hands. This will provide you with the maximum protection. 7. What to do if you can't get out. If you are trapped and all you can do is wait for help, try to stay calm. The first thing you need to do is ward off the smoke. This will keep you safe until firefighters arrive. Hide in a room that is still untouched by fire and close the door firmly. Use cloths, rags, towels, clothes, or tape to cover all the cracks and vents around the door. Try your best to keep the smoke out. 8. Call for help if you're trapped on an upper floor. Try to get to a window that faces the street or other buildings. Take something white, a sheet or a towel, and hang it from the windowsill. When the first rescuers get to your house, this will indicate your location to them as well as the fact that you need help. After you complete this task, close the window immediately. Otherwise, the fire will be drawn toward the fresh oxygen. 9. If you're not too far from the ground, try to escape through a window. If there's no other way but to use a second-floor window as your escape route, search for a ledge. If there's a ledge under the window, climb onto it in such a way that you're facing the building. You'll have to hang from a second story, but at least you'll be closer to the ground. Your chances of remaining unhurt during the fall will be much higher. However, if you're trapped somewhere higher than the second floor, you better stay where you are. Close the door, take measures to prevent smoke from entering the room, cover your nose and mouth, and wait for help. Take your safety.
A shark fin is heading straight for you. Steadily, terrifyingly, the shark is closing in. Even if you don't have galeophobia, which is a fear of sharks, you're certainly scared now. Should you stay still? Should you splash around and throw underwater punches? How do you keep from being bitten? Well, here's how to survive a shark attack according to science. The first set of tips in this video will teach you how to avoid sharks in the first place. And the second set will teach you what to do if you're being attacked. First, stay away. Don't swim in deep water or in harbor entrances because those are sharks' favorite places. Don't swim in the dark either. This isn't just a shark horror movie trope. Sharks hunt at night and, unlike you, they can see in the dark. Second, if you see a shark, stay still. If the shark is not attacking you but simply swimming nearby, don't agitate it by flailing your limbs and making a big splash. Just float, move very slowly, and wait for the shark to swim away. Third, don't pee. Urine attracts sharks. While you may feel lazy and relaxed while floating in the warm ocean water, remember that it's a lot easier to swim back to shore and find a bathroom than it is to lose a leg. Blood attracts sharks as well. There's not enough evidence to know for sure whether menstruating swimmers and divers are more prone to being attacked, but it is widely known that an open wound releases enough blood to excite sharks. So if you're wounded, leave the water. Now, these are good tips for avoiding sharks, but what if one is actively attacking you? Well, then the rules for survival are quite different. You may have to engage with the shark to survive. So, fourth, don't play dead. That may sometimes work with bears, but sharks behave quite differently. If you do play dead, be aware that sharks enjoy an easy meal that they don't have to work for. Fifth, fight. Punch and kick the shark as hard as you can and as often as you can. The best places to strike are at the shark's most sensitive body parts, its nose, eyes, and gills. Sharks are known to give up and swim away if they get hit hard enough. A spear gun or knife will add pain to your punch, so use them if you have them. Sixth, leave the water. Even if you've beaten the shark off, it could very easily return. Sharks are known to leave temporarily, only to return to continue their attack. And seventh, get medical help. If you were bitten, stay calm to keep your blood from being pumped faster out of your body. And apply pressure to minimize the bleeding. Even if the wound seems small and manageable, get treatment. These are the best tips for avoiding and surviving shark attacks. Note that if you're up against the Meg or a megalodon, these tips may not work. Luckily, both megalodons and sharks are in short supply. Sharks don't even like the taste of human flesh, and there aren't any condiments in the oceans that could mask our bad taste. So, avoid sharks if you can, and use the tips in this video if you are the victim of a rare shark attack. If you do, then you have a very good chance of surviving a shark attack, according to science.
How to escape from a sinking car. In order to survive in an extreme situation, you'd better make sure you know what to do in advance. After all, when it's crunch time, you might only have seconds to act. There are two very important steps in this unfortunate situation. As soon as the car makes contact with the water, unfasten your seatbelt and roll down the window as fast as you can. Once you've done that, immediately vacate the car through the open window before the vehicle becomes submerged. And that's basically it if there are no unexpected problems. Remember that you'll only have about a minute to complete these two steps before the car sinks completely underwater. Do not waste time trying to open the door. It simply will not budge because of the force of the water pressing on it from the outside. Memorize the sequence. Unfasten the seatbelt, lower the window, climb out of the car. It's your only chance of survival. A crank window will give you the best means of escape. But here's a promising fact. According to test results, a car's electronics continue to function for at least 10 minutes after it becomes submerged. So, if you have power windows, you can still get out. Now, let's look at some possible hiccups you might encounter. If you can't get the window to roll down, break it. The quicker you react, the better. Don't even try breaking the windshield. It's made of extra strong, crash-resistant triplex safety glass. There are actually tons of online shops that offer special car window breaking tools at affordable prices. So just look it up on the internet, buy one, and keep it in your car. Another option is to use some heavy object with a pointed tip like a hammer, wrench, or heavy screwdriver. If you don't have any of these, you can use a stiletto heel or simply your elbow. If your car seats have removable headrests, you can also use the metal prongs at the end of those. Aim your blows at the corners of the window where the glass is weaker. If there are children in the car, make sure to shove them out ahead of yourself. In fact, experts recommend the following plan of action. First, unbuckle your seatbelt and lower your window. Only after your window is open should you help your children. In the case of just one child, unfasten their seatbelt and push them out ahead of you. If there are several children, help them from oldest to youngest. Once you've gotten your kids out, leave the car yourself. Older children are first since they can potentially help the younger ones. That way, everybody gets out safely. If you absolutely can't get out through the window, wait until the car fills completely with water and then open the door. It seems like the craziest and scariest thing ever, but it works. Waiting for some time will allow the pressure inside and outside the car to equalize. Experts recommend keeping a firm grip on the door handle while the water fills the inside. When the inside and outside pressures equal out, take a deep breath of the last bit of air, open the door, and swim out. Remember that the door will not open easily. You may have to push it with your feet, so be ready for that. Follow the air bubbles to find your way to the surface. When you've successfully gotten out of your car, you can easily become disoriented underwater. This is because the water around the sinking car gets murky and clouded. It could also simply be due to pure fear and panic. To find your way out, swim in the same direction as the rising air bubbles. They will lead you to the surface. Now, let's go through the two-step survival plan once again. As soon as the car hits the water, unfasten your seatbelt. roll down or break the window, and get out as quickly as you can. Let's hope that you'll never actually have to put the knowledge to use, but it's always been.
The only way to survive in a free-falling elevator. Okay, this is a fun topic. Hey, free-falling in a trapped small metal box sounds terrifying. Duh. Even the thought of such a grim situation gives us chills. And you probably wondered what you would do if the elevator cable suddenly snapped. Is it even possible to survive such a fall? Any volunteers? I don't see any hands. Well, today we answer these questions and share some recommendations from scientists and engineers about what you should and definitely shouldn't do if you find yourself in a falling elevator. Okay, brace yourself. Number 1. Don't jump. There's a widespread misconception that if you jump a moment before the elevator hits the bottom, you will somehow decrease the impact on your body. Firstly, how are you planning to understand when you should jump? You can't see through metal, can you? Secondly, even if you somehow manage to jump, which is extremely difficult due to being in a free fall, the speed decrease you can hope for is about 2 miles per hour or 3 kilometers per hour. It's definitely not enough to save your life. What is worse, you might hurt yourself badly if you hit the ceiling with your head. Jumping is not worth the risk at all. Mythbusters tested this approach. Believe us, it didn't end well for the dummy inside the elevator. The next thing not to do, don't stand up straight. Standing up straight and hoping for the best is also not the best idea. Nothing good is coming. What is coming is a weight 10 times larger than that of your own body dropping on your legs at the moment of impact. Now, with all due respect, neither you nor anyone else can survive that. So, now that we're clear of what you should never do in a falling elevator, let's get to the best course of action. Number 1. Lie flat on the floor. Your best bet would be to lie flat on your back. This position will help you distribute the force of the impact across your entire body. Yes, your small thin bones will probably snap anyway, though it mostly depends on how high up you were when the cable snapped. But it might help you avoid more serious damage. Or not. Nobody is absolutely certain. It's probably pretty hard to think clearly in such a situation, but you should also remember to cover your head with your hands. When the elevator lands, it will most likely be destroyed, so protecting your head from debris might save your life. Or not. The problem with lying flat is, well, your brain. Like in a car accident, a sudden speed drop from, say, 60 miles per hour or 96 kilometers per hour to 0 can and will cause a severe brain concussion. Another issue is that when falling, you are weightless, so you'll have to hold yourself in order not to start flying. Yes, there are many downsides to this approach, but even considering all of them, experts agree that it's the only realistic way to save your life. Or not. You ever hear of Betty Lou Oliver? She worked as an elevator operator for the Empire State Building in New York City. She holds the world's record for surviving the longest elevator fall in history. She traveled 79 floors in a falling elevator and stayed alive. What saved her was 1,000 feet of cable that landed before the elevator did and smoothed out the fall. What's even more shocking, earlier that day, a plane crashed right into the floor Betty worked on. She survived that accident, although 14 of her colleagues didn't. We don't believe there are that many people who are so lucky. Of course, there are rumors that Betty went right out and bought a lottery ticket after that. On the bright side, no pun intended, elevator accidents happen extremely rarely. More people die when they step in empty shafts, oops, or get stuck in between the elevator doors. So watch your step and don't hurry. You can always catch the next one. Also, some elevator shafts have special buffers that, in case of emergency, are supposed to make the landing smooth. Actually, the only surefire 100% way to survive in a free-falling elevator is
If you find yourself going into a free fall inside a metal tube, hurtling through the clouds at hundreds of kilometers per hour, and an oxygen mask drops down right in front of you, try not to panic. Airplane crashes are highly survivable. And here's what you can do to increase your chances of survival, according to science. Taking a flight on a commercial airplane is about as risky as riding an escalator. The odds of being killed in a plane crash are 1 in 11 million. You're more likely to drown in a bubble bath, choke on your breakfast, or die in a car accident on your way to the airport. Yet, we can all feel a little nervous when stepping on a plane. What do you do with this yellow mask if it suddenly drops from the ceiling? Where do you run to in an emergency evacuation? And where is the safest place on the plane? Here are 6 things you can do to survive a plane crash. Number 1. Dress as if you'll have to run away from a fire. Your flip-flops may be comfy, but they're not going to perform well in case of an emergency. And neither will your high-heeled shoes. The National Transportation Safety Board reports that 68% of passengers in plane accidents die from injuries in post-crash fires. So go for long pants and long-sleeved shirts. They'll protect you from flames and sharp objects. And put on lace-up shoes in case you need to run. Number 2. Be wise about where your seat is. Where is the safest place to sit anyway? According to an analysis of airplane crashes by Popular Mechanics, your best bet is to sit as far back in the airplane as possible, unless the plane goes down tail first. You see, there's no such thing as the safest seat on a plane. It all really depends on the situation. Regardless of what section you're sitting in, know where the emergency exits are. When you get on the plane, count the rows to the closest one so that you can find it, even if the cabin is filled with smoke. Number 3, stay awake during takeoff and landing. The first 3 minutes after takeoff and the 8 minutes before landing are the most accident-prone times of the entire flight. Make sure to keep your shoes on, your seatbelt fastened, and your tray table up. Put your carry-on items under the seat in front of you. You know why? To keep your legs from going under the seat and getting broken. And pay attention to the emergency instructions, even if you've been on a plane many times before. Not all planes are the same. Number 4. If you do get in a crash, try not to panic. The first 90 seconds of a plane crash are the most important. Many people get so nervous they forget how to unbuckle their seatbelt. Listen carefully to the instructions, but don't just sit through the disaster waiting for orders if they're not coming. The first thing you should do is to prepare for impact. Bend over, grab your legs behind your knees, and keep your head down. In the worst case scenario, the cabin will experience sudden pressure loss and oxygen deficiency. You'll only have about 10 seconds before you go unconscious. So if you see the oxygen masks drop down, put one on yourself first. Only then should you try to help someone else. Number 5, save yourself, not your possessions. If you get to evacuate from the plane, do it as quickly as possible. Don't try to get your carry-on to take with you. In the time you waste, you might end up getting stuck with it on a burning plane. Finally, once you're on the ground, get as far away from the crash as you can. If your plane hits the ground, there's a high chance of it exploding. Run at least 150 meters away from it in the direction against the wind and wait for the rescuers to find you. It's good to be prepared for anything, but don't be afraid of flying. In the history of aviation, it's never been a safer time to fly. Commercial aviation averages less than 500 fatalities per year worldwide. Among planes that do get into accidents, over 95% of the passengers get out of them alive. Personally, I try to think of turbulence like bumps on the road. Helps with my flying anxiety. That's a little tip from me to you. Stay tuned for another how-to, according to science.